Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Now today I'm doing 10 cards 1 kit using the Queen & Co.'s cute little love jar kit. I'm doing part 1 today. This is going to be 2 parts because there is an add-on to the love jar kit called the bug jar. So I haven't even made any cards with the love jar kit, so that's what we're going to do today. The first 5 cards of my 10 cards 1 kit will be with the love jar. If you missed the unboxing for both kits, I'll leave a link below for you to check out. But I started off by embossing a white panel here. Now this panel is 3.5 inches by 4 3/4, and I'm going to use this cute little paper pad that came with the love jar kit. It's called Flirty Florals. But I went ahead and die cut out all my elements, and so I'm going to just use my glue and attach a strip of the yellow polka dot pattern paper to my stripe paper. That's going to go on the bottom of my embossed cardstock there. Next, love jar kit came with a jar top, and then it also came with a little scallop border that you could add to it. So I added a piece of pattern paper, the same pattern paper actually that I used for the bottom of my panel. I added that little scallop to my lid. My lid I created with some silver mirror cardstock. I thought it'd be a nice and fun accent. But I just adhered my pattern paper to my panel, and now I'm going to grab one of my foam fronts here for my shaker. You just remove out the middle piece, the negative piece, remove the release paper, and then you stick that down to your project. And I think right there is going to go great. Now we're going to eventually use the negative piece for our cards today, so we want to keep those. Now I cut out this pattern paper using the jar die that came with the love jar kit. That's going to go right in the center of my shaker. Now we're going to add some toppings. These are the cute, 2 pretty flower toppings that came with the kit. And I decided to go, there was a variety of colors, but I chose the white and the blue. I thought it was a nice soft color for the inside of my love jar here. And then this kit also came with some flower sequins, nice large bag. There was like a yellowish tone sequin that's shaped like a flower. I'm just going to grab 3 of those and then add those to my jar. Next I'm going to peel the release paper off of the front of my shaker foam. I'm going to add the pre-cut acetate right over the top, and it just lines up beautifully. And then I'll go ahead and just use my glue, and I'm going to attach the die cut piece of pattern paper, and then I'll go ahead and add some foam behind my lid. Now since the shakers are a little bit on the wider side, I found that if you layer 3 pieces of 3M foam tape together, it'll create the same width as your shaker front. So that's what I did here, and I just added a piece behind my lid, and I'll use a little bit of glue to attach that to the top of my jar. Okay, now the kit also came with 2 little tags, a heart tag and then a regular tag that fits the sentiments in the stamp set beautifully. So I just stamped the sentiment that says "You fill me with joy," and I did add a white eyelet to my little tag. I think that just gives a finished look. Next I'll take the yellow and white baker's twine, and I tied a bow to my tag and just used a glue burr to attach that to my panel. And then I added my panel to my card base, and then added a few of the gems that also came in the love jar kit. So that was card number 1. Now for card number 2, I cut out a panel. This panel here is 3 inches by 5.5 inches. And just using some Distress Oxide ink, this is Broken China, I added a little bit of blue for my background. Just shaded it really lightly. Now, next I'm going to save that because I just wanted the gray polka dot pattern paper. This is the negative piece from our first card. And all I have to do is remove the release paper and stick down my die cut jar piece here. And then there was a little bit of the foam showing, and of course it's tacky because you removed the release paper, so I like to go over it with my anti-static powder tool to remove all the tackiness. But I added a white scallop to my yellow polka dot lid that I die cut out. And then I used the green pattern paper and just used a circle die from my stash and cut out a half circle. I figured that'd be a nice little grassy area for the bottom of my panel. Now I went ahead and added my jar here, and then I haven't glued it down yet. I added it to my panel because I kind of want to space where I want my flowers to be. Now in the stamp set, the Love Jar kit came with a 4x6 stamp set, and it came with a lot of fun little floral images. And what I like about these is the stems are moldable, so you can bend them to the left or to the right, or straight up and down, and I thought that was so neat. But I'm inking them up with two different color of green inks, and then I'm just going to stamp them, making sure that they're going to come right out of my little jar there. Lovely. I used two different green inks because I did want a little bit of shading on the leaves. Now I'm going to stamp my flowers. The stamp set came with a variety of flowers, and I chose these two. There was a small one and a large one, and I'm just going to stamp them with my pink ink, and I think that looks really fun. Okay, now I'm going to actually cut off that top portion of my jar. It seemed to flow better without it because my flowers didn't seem like they looked like they were inside of it, so I just trimmed it down. This way my flowers look like they're actually inside the jar. Now I'm using the gray and white baker's twine that came with the Love Jar kit, and I'm just going to wrap that around my lid of my jar, and I tied a little bow there. Next I'm taking a piece of the pink gingham pattern paper, and I just fishtailed both ends, and I taped it across my jar there. And then for my sentiment, I chose Filled with Thanks. I thought that was so cute, and it's a perfect circle shape. So I did die cut out a white circle. I'm just going to pop that up on my jar there, right in the center. And then for a few bells and whistles, I did decide to add a little more color by taking a strip of this pattern paper. It's a 1/4 inch strip, and I went around the right side here. Just added a strip there. It just kind of made it pop a little bit more. Now I am going to go in with my black marker and add a few little dots here and there, kind of creating a little faux splatter effect. And then that finishes off card number 2. Now for card number 3, I already die cut out my elements here. I'm going to add my scallop to my lid using the pattern paper from the Flirty Florals. And then for my jar here, I die cut out the gray and white polka dot, and then also die cut out the white cardstock center. I'm going to shade that one in with some Wild Honey. I wanted to use this striped pattern paper, and I found that Wild Honey matched the yellow in that pattern paper pretty well. So I'm just shading in the bottom portion. I wanted it to look like lemonade. So once we have that done, I did add a little bit of water to distress it. But I'm going to add this strip of pattern paper to the very bottom of my card base. And then for my panel here is 3.5 inches by 4 3/4. We're going to kind of create our little card front. Now I'm just kind of positioning it where I want it to go. And then I'm going to do a little shading with some worn lipstick, Distress Oxide ink, on my panel. That way it's just not a white panel. It has a little bit of color behind there. Now I'm going to take the negative piece of my foam front here. Actually, I did the opposite. I took the positive piece because we're going to fill it. I'm going to remove the release paper and stick that down on my panel. Lovely. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my tape runner and adhere the inside piece to the inside of my shaker. Fits beautifully. Okay, now with this strip of the same pattern paper we used for the card base, I thought it would be fun, since it was diagonal, to create a straw. So just using my tape runner, and this is actually a paintbrush for my that I have on my desk. I'm going to roll it around the paintbrush add a little more of my tape runner, and then I'll pull my paintbrush out and then kind of roll it on my desk, creating a thin straw. And I thought that would be perfect for the inside of my shaker. Now it was a little bit thicker than my shaker jar, but I didn't mind because we're going to flatten it just a bit so it's not so bulky. Using a pen, I'm going to mark off where I want my straw to go. And now what we're going to do is just take my scissors and trim off that portion of the shaker, the foam here. That way my straw will fit perfectly inside my jar. And then there is a little bit of room, but when you flatten it, it will seal it. Now I slid my lid in to the top of my straw just temporarily, and then I'm using these clear gems that came with the Love Jar kit. I added a few of those and I thought they looked really cute like ice cubes. So I removed the release paper, and now I'm going to go ahead and add my acetate cover. And since we cut out that portion on the very top, it's going to lay perfectly right on top of our shaker window, and nothing's going to leave. I did use tape behind my straw, and the diamonds were kind of sticking, but I think they'll loosen up in a little bit. But just using glue, I'm going to add my polka dot frame for my little mason jar here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little glue to the top portion of the jar, and I'll slide down my lid and place that in its place. And then we have a cute little lemonade jar. I thought that was so fun. So if you ever want to make straws, just roll your pattern paper. I think it's a great effect. Now I already stamped the sentiment that says made with love on the little heart tag that came with this kit, and I did add a pink eyelet. Just add a little bit extra something, and then I'm going to add my panel to my card base. I'm going to place it right in the center. Lovely. I'm going to just trim down my straw just a little bit, and then I'm just going to take my pink and white baker's twine. This kit came with 5 different colors of baker's twine, so I'm using the pink for this card. I'm going to thread it through my little tag and tie a bow. And then to accent my little card, I'm going to go in with some VersaFine ink, and then there's a set of 3 little hearts in the stamp set. I'm going to stamp a few of those on my panel. Now I did add a little bit of black dots around that just so it flows a little bit better. But I taped down my sentiment so it wouldn't shift. And there we have it in a cute little lemonade jar. It says made with love. I think that turned out fun. Okay, now we're going to move along to our next card. I'm going to take this floral pattern paper and adhere that to the pink gingham pattern paper. And then I also cut out a strip of the stripe paper. That's going to go right along my seam. And then I thought I'll break out the corner chomper. I started off by using the 1/4 inch, but then changed my mind and went back around it with the 1/2 inch. I thought the 1/2 inch just kind of fit better. Okay, now we're going to build our shaker, so I removed the release paper off of my foam here. I'm going to place that on my little panel. And I already die cut out my mason jar with white cardstock. I'm going to add a little bit of color to this, just using whatever ink is left on my blending tool. I believe it's worn lipstick, just shading it really lightly. So we have a little bit of color behind here. Just going to tape that down in the center of my foam. Okay, then we get to, before I go any further, I figured I better tape this down to my card base. I'm going to place this all the way to the bottom and place it in the center. Okay, now I cut out the lid and then also the scallop with some silver mirror cardstock. I'm just going to glue those both together. And then while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and glue that to the top of my die cut jar here. And It fits beautifully. I think this was such cute. Now that top piece you could either take out or leave in. I chose to leave it in as if the lid was sealed. And so next, the kit also came with these cute little wooden hearts. I'm going to use those in this jar. And then, now this is, you're going to think, what is she doing with an eraser? Well, I'm going to cut it in half so it fits actually inside my little jar there. I'm going to add a paper clip, and I'm going to add a little penny, and then I'm going to add a rubber band, and then I'm also going to add a band-aid. Now, I thought this would be so fun. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and so this was my opportunity. This mason jar was so cute, and so I added all my elements. Now I'm going to remove the release paper here, and then I'll go ahead and add my pre-cut acetate that will fit right on top of my jar here. The kit's called Love Jar, so I'm making a love jar here. I'm going to just use my glue and attach the front of my mason jar. Now next, on my printer, I printed out this little sheet here. Now it says heart because you are loved, and those are the little hearts in the little mason jar. Paper clip to hold it together. Band-aid when things get a bit tough. Penny, lucky to have a friend like you. An eraser, and the rest. I should have still paused it, but I thought that would be a cute little emergency friendship jar, so I printed that off. Now if you check out my blog, I'll leave a still shot of what I printed out, and if you guys want to type it up and print it out for your love jar, you're more than happy to. But there's a lot of ideas for French emergency kits over on Pinterest if you want to check that out. But I'm taking the little heart tag here, and I added one of the flower sequins and then a few little green leaves from the stamp set. Now I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says for you, just using my VersaFine ink. And then I'm going to take the little hearts that I had left. That one I wanted to see if it fit right in the center of that heart that was on the sentiment, and it fit perfectly. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue there and add one of the hearts there. And then I thought, well, I'm going to add a little bit of the heart on my little flower. When I added glue to add my flower, the center was still a little bit wet, so the heart stuck pretty good. Now, just to keep this a little bit more natural, especially since there's wood accents, I just grabbed some natural jute cord from my stash, doubled it up and tied a bow to add my little tag. And that finishes off my friendship emergency jar card. But I think that turned out so fun. Now we're moving along to our next card. Using this pattern paper, I used my anti-static powder tool on top, and now I'm going to do some embossing with some white embossing powder. So I'm grabbing one of the leaf stems here, and I stamped them twice, and then added two different flowers to the right of my panel here. I'm just melting. I used white embossing powder, and I'm just going to melt it. And then here's all the elements we're going to use. I used an oval die from my stash here. That was the smallest one I had, and it fit the center of my mason jar beautifully. Now for my cap, I cut out a piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to add the scallop border I cut out with the pink gingham pattern paper. It's the same pattern paper I used for the jar part. Since we're going to be using the negative part of the foam fronts, I thought we'll use the pink gingham here. I'm going to remove the release paper, and I did add a scallop border on the very bottom of this panel. Add my jar here. That's a nice thing. I always like to use the negative parts of the foam. I think it just stretches your kits, and I think they're beautiful. But I'm going to add my pattern paper, and again there's a little bit tackiness, so I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool to remove the tackiness. And then I'll go ahead and attach my lid. I decided to take the gray and white baker's twine and tie a little bow to the left of my jar there. Now for my sentiment, I stamped the sentiment. I already did that, I'm sorry, but I die cut out a polka dot tag, and then I stamped the sentiment that says, I cannot contain my gratitude. I thought that was so sweet, and I love that the sentiments fit perfectly in those tags. But for my oval, I stamped two leaves, And I'm going to eventually add that little white flower sequin. And then to bring out a little more color, since it was pretty much pink and white, I did fishtail a thin strip of pattern paper, and I placed it on my scalloped border there. I'm going to add one of my pink rhinestones to the center of my little white flower, and I think it looks so dainty and cute. And I'll just tape that down to the center of my mason jar. And then I did add 2 of the pink rhinestones to the center of my flowers. There's 3 different sizes, so I added those. And I did go ahead and add my panel to an A2 size card base. And then there we have it. That's my final card using the Love Jar kit. This kit was so versatile and so fun, and I really enjoyed using it. Stay tuned, because following this video, give me a couple hours because I still have to upload it, but I'll be doing the part 2 with the Bug Jar kit, and I have to tell you, the Bug Jar kit is adorable. But have a fantastic day, guys. We will see you again soon. Bye-bye.